Muslim family in which one of the daughters was the meal ticket. And Meena Kumari lived for 40 years, and for 35 years she was an actress. She made her first film, or acted at the age of 5 in a film called Leatherface. And she acted from 5 to 40 and she became the meal ticket for the family. And Madhubala, similarly, the parents kept a very tight hold because she was the Sone Ki Chidiya. Yeah. And if you remember a film called Sone Ki Chidiya, it's all about that. And Meena Kumari's great problems with her father was that once she fell in love with Kamal Amrohi, he wouldn't let her go because she was the meal ticket. And she ran away. She eloped with Kamal Amrohi. She went to work one day and didn't come back. And Kamal Amrohi, when she left him, wouldn't let her go because she was at that time Kamal Amrohi's meal ticket.
That's quite right. But I think
your point about these performative traditions are hugely important, and I'm not talking particularly about these heroines, but the association of these women with the Taraif traditions. Partly perhaps people thought changing their names to Hindu names was moving away from those traditions, changing the style of singing, bringing in the Lata Mangeshkar type higher pitch singing, less a Taraif style of singing. And the real struggle I think many of these women had to, not because they necessarily wanted to be respectable, but because they wanted to be accepted for their work, perhaps. And now I think you've had something like the kind of sanitization of the film industry. And was somebody like Meena Kumari in her day that scandalous? If you read Manto's stories about people like Sitara Devi and the earlier stars, they were quite outrageous women.
Yeah, quite, absolutely. And in a sense, the kind of strides that they made from where they were into the kind of possessions that they ended up acquiring Sitara Devi Manto has one version, and the theatre director Habib Tanveer has another version of Sitara Devi performing in Budapest in the 1950s, where the whole city and the city's scream and the diplomatic corps has turned out to watch her perform. So there is a tremendous journey that took place in India in the coming of modern technologies in terms of performing arts and the sustaining of traditions, and the continuity of traditions. But for actors like Dilip Kumar, for instance, Meena Kumari or Madhubala, did the stigma of coming from a different class, would that have inflected Dilip Kumar's attitude to Meena Kumari?
Well, one of the very interesting things I found at that time was Hindu girls didn't enter into the Bombay film industry very, very readily. It was all Muslim girls. I think Nutan was the first person from a Hindu family.
There was Durga Khote before that.
Huh? Shantarapte, Durga
No, but I'm
Khote.
talking of that period. That period, there were most of the women were low, and all lower middle class Muslim women. Yeah. But sorry, I've forgotten your question.
No, I was saying, would for actors like Dilip Kumar, who came from a certain Sharif family, or a Raj Kapoor, or a Devanand, who all came from relatively, in comparison to the heroine, Sharif families, would their attitude to these heroines have been inflected by this, that they are coming?
The men were from the Sharif family.
Were the men good enough for the women is what I'm asking,
The women were lower class. Did that matter?
Well, I think these women they were lower middle class. But although most of the films were hero-oriented, these actresses were big stars. And they held their own. And one of the reasons that these actors were slightly scared of Meena Kumari was that she made demands on them. And there was an actor called Ashok Kumar who died, and she had an affair with him. And he had a rule that he was a great philanderer also, but he had a rule that you must come go to work at 10 o'clock and be home by 6:30 so that your wife is happy. And in between you can do anything you feel like. And the Meena Kumari Ashok Kumar affair was conducted on Marine Drive in his car, where he would drive from one point of Marine Drive to the other and they go up and down and do their business, whatever they had to do. But she could, because her sexuality was so open and she was not ashamed of her, she made demands on them. I couldn't put all this because it came from rather nebulous sources. And also I thought there's too much sex in the book, so I didn't want to concentrate on the sex bit so much. But I mean, there's hardly a secret that not only did she sleep with all her heroes, but say someone like Dharminder, she picked him up when he came from Jalandhar or wherever he came, and she mentored him. And she flaunted her relationship with him. So he was her toy boy, if you like. So this toy boy, she flaunted her relation. And once at, I think, Delhi airport, when Dharminder had to travel with her to Bombay, he went missing. And she created a huge shindig saying, where's Dharminder, where's Dharminder? And it was all in the papers the next day that her toy boy, and she was howling and crying that he has left me. So she was a great actress off the screen also.
Quite. But you didn't get to interview Dharmendra for your book, did you? Did you interview Dharmendra for your book?
He gave me 5 appointments and broke all of them. But in this book of mine, if you got...
It's over there, actually.
There's a lovely picture of Dharmender wearing a lungi and bare-chested. And it shows the intimacy of the relationship and also the fact that she had no problems of posing with a guy with a lungi, bare-chested and a cigarette in his mouth. I mean, it was scandalous at that time, but she did it. And
how did you get that picture?
Well, I was lucky to get that picture from somebody who didn't realize what he had. And Rachel, I think, when I compared that relationship to D.H. Lawrence's book of Lady Chatterley and Mellors, some people made fun of me that I was exaggerating. But what I was trying to say was there was the sophisticated lady, and here was this rustic boy, and it was a very carnal sort of relationship. But this rustic boy was very smart. He used her and moved on.
But do you think part of what we try to do is that we want to see everything very sanitized, a very middle-class morality, and we're trying to impose it on people in the film industry, whereas in those days, quite a lot of them were living quite colourful lives.
But she was open, and she shocked them. And in those days, it used to be said that these actors, like Shammi Kapoor, they said he's made a play for everybody who he acted with. So if you acted with the actress, I mean, you went to bed with her. So the actors sleeping with the heroines or the co-stars is nothing new. What she did was she did that bit, but she also picked up these youngsters. And she was very open about the relationship with these youngsters, who she mentored and then she threw away. The chap I told you, I hope he's not here today. His name is Savan Kumar Tuck. And he made a film called Gomti Ke Kinare or something like that, among the last films.
Yeah, he made some more films after that.
Terrible film. And when I met him, he had half a bottle of warm beer in his fridge, which he drank and didn't give me. But he was talking at great length about his affair with Meena Kumari. And when I investigated, I found the affair lasted no more than 4 or 5 days.
But there was a lot of salaciousness around her. No, I remember there was a journalist called Mohan Kumar, a film journalist. Mohandeep or Mohan Kumar, I forget the name. And he wrote about Meena Kumari's sex life, and there was a kind of a titillating...
Yeah, I don't want to be that That's very down market, yeah. That book is very down market. I didn't even read it.
There was also, I think, when looking at Meena Kumari, I mean, Raj Kapoor, I know, used to say there was very much a Muslim group within the film industry. You know, was Meena Kumari ever part of that? You know, round Mehboob and people?
Well, that's very interesting. There's the Muslim group and the Hindu group. And the Hindu group was Raj Kapoor, most of it. And the Muslim group was around Dilip Kumar. She was not part of any
Is that
group.
true? Is that something?
I'm just, no, Raj Kapoor apparently talked about it, but I don't know if it ever existed or if it was just one of his sort of paranoias about Nargis working with Dilip Kumar and Mehboob.
She was not part of any group, but there's a lovely story about Sahab Bibi or Ghulam. When Guru Dutt was casting Sahab Bibi or Ghulam, he decided that I want Meena Kumari. So he sent a message to Kamal, which was still living with Kamal Amrohi, and said, I want to, because you had to go through Kamal Amrohi, he was sort of secretary at that time. So he said, no, she's not going to act in this film because there's drinking and all kind of lechery involved in this film. So Guru Dutt tried to get another girl from England, and he shot her for about 15, 20 days, and she was useless. Fortunately, at some party, he met Meena Kumari, and he said, you know, I'm very sorry that you rejected my film. And she said, I know nothing about it. And as soon as he told her the story of the film, she loved it. The fact that she had to drink, that she had to seduce her husband, that there were brothels, she just loved the story. And in my book, I quote that she got so obsessed with Choti Bahu that she said, I have become Choti Bahu. What is it? Day and night, Choti Bahu, Choti Bahu. So she identified very closely with Choti Bahu.
That's right. Right. But, you know, it's, there is, I keep thinking about the kind of interaction that Guru Dutt and Meena Kumari would have had during the making of that film, you know, because this is just 1 or 2 years before Guru Dutt committed suicide, you know. Yeah. And by all accounts, he was quite advanced by then in his alcoholism. And you know, from the accounts that I have read, I mean, he was a manic depressive, you know. He should have been, you know, on lithium or something.
That film was made when Guru Dutt was going through a bad time.
Yeah.
And, you know, he made Chaudhry Ka Chand in a jiffy in about 4 months, which was simply because to recoup the losses of Kagaz Ke Phool. And he made what was known in those days as Muslim Social. And then he made this last film, Sahab Bibi or Ghulam, because this had been in his mind.
Which is also a Muslim Social,
yeah,
set in Bengal.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a book. If I was a biographer today, has there been any book on Guru Dutt?
There's several books on Guru Dutt. Nasreen Muni Kabir did the first one.
But
there's one by Aaron Kopka, one by Partha Chatterjee.
Just shows my ignorance.
On Guru Dutt, yes.
Yeah, but I think he's still a great subject for a biography.
And Abrar Alvi, of course, wrote his book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you know what, you know, did you have a kind of a vision in front of you when you set out to write the book? Were you going to investigate it? Because, you know, you were not that invested into Meena Kumari.
Yeah.
But obviously it was a good story as a journalist,
Yeah.
you know, it sounded like a good story.
I did it as a commission, you know, like a writer. You are commissioned to write a profile of Sonia Gandhi. And I said, how many thousand words? So they said,
are you doing 40. A profile of Sonia Gandhi?
No, I'm not.
But I'm
a lot
sure
of people think I'm a Sonia Gandhi
I'm sure they can
so
find,
I'm writing a book on Sonia
publishers here,
Gandhi.
you know, it's
But there's no, Sonia Gandhi biography would be very boring because no one would tell the truth.
Because?
No one would tell the truth.
Oh, that's right. But you could.
Including Sonia Gandhi. So, no, I think that I did this as a commission, and I couldn't make any head or tail about this woman. I mean, I got so much information best information came from hairdressers, drivers, and all this kind of thing. Second in line, they gave you good. then she produced a long playing record of her poems. And what I used to do at night in my flat in Kemp's Corner, I used to play that music and drink rum. And then after some time I understood, once I realized that the poems were so bad, that this was all a fraud. That her nostalgia, her sense of woe, her sense of that she is uniquely cursed, that men have betrayed her, seemed to be very cliched. And then I started to understand her. And as a flawed woman, I
But
found
who's
her
not,
very
Vinod?
interesting.
Who's not flawed?
Huh?
Who's not?
Sorry?
Which woman is not flawed, or which man is not flawed?
Yes, yes, of course. But she was an interesting, you see, you have boring flaws, you have
That's quite
interesting flaws.
That's true.
So she was an interesting flawed woman, not a boring flawed woman. That's true. I'm sure Madhubala was a boring flawed woman. So she didn't have any of these aspects to
She
her.
made up for it by her face, I think.
Ah, what she was, okay.
But you, before the book, did you have any interest in Meena Kumari?
Absolutely not. I had written a scurrilous book on Bombay, and I had no interest, but I was, the follies of my youth, I was 25 years old, I wanted to write, and I was lucky that somebody, you know, they gave me 500 rupees as an advance for Meena Kumari, JECO, and which I used in my travels on my taxi to Pali Hill, etc., etc. So I was very excited of working under a deadline.